Alright, how's it going, guys? I'm gonna be attempting a Deathless playthrough here. I've tried 2 before this recording. 1 just like a practice run, trying out a new weapon, and playing with controller. And then just before this I did 1, recorded it all, and I choked, died at the very last boss, which is fine, you know, would have still been a good video. But my voice was really quiet, and I think I fixed that. I found a way to up my microphone level, and also just try to talk louder.
We need your help.
So this is Lies of P, a pretty hyped upcoming game, I would say. There's been a lot of buzz about it whenever they show a trailer or something. And it came out with a demo just a few days ago. So I'll be running through that
There you are.
kind of briskly. So we're just trying to do a Deathless
I've been looking
playthrough.
all over for you.
We've done this 3 times, so I won't spend too much time on it. But I'll let you know about all the mechanics, my thoughts and stuff.
I see my name, Jiminy. Please escort him to the hotel.
So, as you can see, the game's really pretty, really good graphics. It's a very, very high fidelity game, and
Let's get you out of there.
it's cool to see. Seems like a
Find
big budget
something
game,
that might help.
and I think it's more like a AA game. I don't think I've heard of the developers before this.
But the streets are. It'll be helpful.
Pick our starting weapon here. I've been liking this great sword. I started my very first playthrough with keyboard and mouse with the rapier, and it's pretty cool, but I kind of didn't enjoy that playthrough, so I think I'm just kind of attributing that to the rapier. So, just my first playthrough of this game, the keyboard and mouse playthrough, I did not really enjoy. I liked kind of everything about the game itself, but the combat felt a little weird, and the controls were kind of awful. Here's our Estus flask. Acts like pretty much any Estus flask in any Dark Souls game or any, clone. I guess kind of a unique thing is it'll slowly charge up as you kill enemies. I think pretty sure the flask in Elden Ring did that as well. But this one will have like a little bar showing you the progress to the next pulse cell. It's the healing item. So yeah, as I was saying, the controller is miles better, I think, than the keyboard and the mouse. The keyboard and mouse had a big issue with, at first, I had to rebind it, jumping accidentally during combat, and it could have been a me thing, but it felt like the timing for it was really bad. I'll kind of explain. So if you've played any of the Dark Souls games before Elden Ring, which has its dedicated jump button, you know how to jump you'd have to sprint and then click a button and you jump. Usually you'd have to kind of sprint for a bit before you could jump. It's kind of, I know a lot of jumping puzzles or stuff, you'd have to like sprint in a circle like this and then go for the jump to build up that time of sprinting. But with this, you can jump really quickly, almost like before the character actually sprints. Like there, he's just walking. The sprint doesn't even start. So you don't have to hold the button for long at all. And then if dodge is the space bar, I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I was constantly holding the space bar just for like a second too long, and I was pressing like double space to do like a, just make sure my dodge comes out. And like later on you gain the ability to kind of do like 2 dashes in a row, so like there you'd be double pressing space, and if it registers that first spacebar press, which you want to be a dodge, if that registers it as you holding it to sprint and you press it again, you jump instead, which is very, very bad in combat. Especially because I don't know. I feel like I was always then jumping in the opposite direction where I was moving. And then that's not an issue with controller because sprinting is the B button, which is dashing and dodging. But then the button you have to click to jump is pushing in the left stick. So you're never going to accidentally jump unless you're pressing the left trigger or left stick so hard that you click it in. Coming to our first mini-boss. I'm really bad at fighting these guys, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, good at first, went awful very quickly after. Let's just explain this HUD a bit, because it's a little bit different. There's some very big similarities to Shogun Souls and some kind of differences. So top left obviously is your health, your stamina, and then that blue, I guess you'd kind of say is your mana. They're called something else. They're called, okay, well I don't have any items for it, but I think it's called, I don't even know. Fable, that's what it's called. Item right there. It's your kind of Fable bar. You're basically your mana. I'm pretty sure in the future you can get more. I think this skill tree thing you unlock at the end of the demo has options to increase that. Or maybe these kind of... This is kind of like your armor, is these parts here. I don't think there's any visual change, but as you can see, they have a weight and then damage reduction. Kind of just armor pieces. Doesn't seem like there's anything that would affect your mana there. But that mana feeds into your weapons, which your weapons have kind of two weapon arts like Elden Ring, and they use up the mana. And some will use up. I'm actually going to turn the sound down just in case, because some things are a little loud. I don't want to have to redo this for a third time. So you can see there, you can see the blade of the weapon has a spell by pressing Y, and the handle has one by using LB and Y. Here's a bonfire. These stargazers.
As we gather with the star.
Just this once, you can level up at it, and then in the future you're going to need to level up at kind of like this game's Emerald Herald. It's kind of interesting. It's a bit annoying sometimes when you just want to level up real quick and you have to go back to kind of your hub to do so, but not too bad. Anyway, back to the weapon. If I press Y here, it's going to be this big slash. Uses up a mana, as you can see, and then with that one, it costs 1, but you're able to chain it up to 3 times, I believe. It's kind of a cool combo there. The total thing would be costing 3 mana. And then my handle has a weapon art that costs 2. And it's kind of just like a super block, and it will be like a perfect parry, like a perfect block no matter what. I don't use it too often. The timing is different than the regular block, so it kind of throws you off, and I'd rather just, instinctually block stuff versus having to think about how to adjust to this, spells block. If you hold A here, like interact button, you'll kind of come up with that pouch thing that Elden Ring had, kind of quick pouch. And then on the left, you've kind of got that D-pad of like items that they've all had. Like the left and right being your weapon, and the up and down being items and spells. But this is just up and down. And from what I can tell, they're both exactly the same. It's just 2 different slots for items. Just kind of split up for ease of use, which on keyboard it's a little confusing because choking with this enemy. But okay, Jesus. Oh, just because the hotkeys for him was a little weird, and it's just going to be letters there instead of, you know, the D-pad icon and then the X button. So if you have, let's say, like T on this top box and Y on the bottom box, and then use is R, it can be confusing if you're just looking at it at a glance. You're like, oh, which one do I press to, you know, scroll through the items in that box, or using it. So using keyboard and mouse, have the jumping issue, and then the the item issue here. But with controller, there's no really mistaking that. It just feels a lot better in controller, the swapping through things. The very bottom left is your arm, which I won't be using too much this playthrough. We'll use it here. It's pretty good damage. There's different arms to collect, and they use that bar there, and it's kind of, you've got, you know, light arm usage and heavy arm usage by like holding down the button. And as far as I can tell, you can't charge that bar naturally. There's items that can do it, and I think in the skill tree there are things that let you get some back for kills. The sound you just heard there was getting another, you know, Estus flask charge by getting hits in. I'm not sure if it's damage or hits. I'd assume it's damage, because otherwise, you know, bigger weapons would be kind of disadvantaged. And here we can see weapon durability. So, and a shortcut. So, kind of like Monster Hunter, I guess, is the best comparison. Your weapons have durability that can be fixed by using an item you start the game with. So it's not like durability in other games where the durability just goes down and it breaks and you have to go repair it. This is a much shorter kind of mechanical loop than that. So usually it's just kind of like a busy work thing, or something to kind of make you go back to base or go back to a bonfire to repair and stuff. In Dark Souls, there's kind of no point to ever really have durability. It's kind of a very niche thing. I think in PvP, there's items that you could throw that would break durability. So you'd use that in PvP. But with this, it's like Monster Hunter, where your weapon is going to be losing sharpness throughout the fight. And I'm not sure if it's a binary thing where your weapon does full damage or it does no damage because it's dull, or if it's kind of segmented and it's kind of invisible segments where if it's fully sharpened like this, does full damage, and then halfway it's going to be doing less. But if the bar goes all the way down, your sword breaks and you have to go repair it. I don't know if it's at a bonfire or at like the weapon person you'll meet later on. But blocking and hitting stuff with your sword or weapon will lower that durability, and then use this grinder item here. Do this, and that will up the durability. Not really the durability, it's a sharpness meter, you know. I think the game calls it durability, but it's a sharpness meter for Monster Hunter, basically. It's just your weapon's going to eventually bounce when it's in the red and do less damage. And I believe you also can't do certain things, you know. Your attacks are just going to bounce, and it feels bad, and then you'd be like, oh crap. So it adds kind of a cool extra layer to combat. Mobbing, you can kind of not have to worry about it, because after every like mob encounter, like every group encounter, you can just keep an eye on it. But in boss fights, it's another kind of bar to keep an eye on, because you don't want to be in the middle of a fight hitting the boss and your attack bounces and you go, oh crap, and then you kind of have to take a moment, you know, in the fight to back up and either fully grind it or slowly throughout the fight keep grinding and sharpening your blade bit by bit. It's got this kind of animation there at the end, so it kind of keeps you from like just tapping it really quickly sharpening bits by bits. So it's cool. It's kind of like finding a moment in a fight to heal, like in Dark Souls when you run and you have to find an opening to heal. Kind of that deciding, oh, do I go for a hit in an opening or do I go for a heal? Now it's kind of, or should I top off my weapon sharpness? Here comes the first boss. Pretty fun fight. I haven't done it too much, so I'm probably not going to be the greatest at it, but hopefully we can do it without dying. And I'll be quiet just because it's going to be pretty loud, but I just want you to notice the opening for this song definitely sounds like something I think from Bloodborne. And do you guys know it? That like rising strings. I know definitely a song in Bloodborne uses it. I can't think of which. Alright. Boss down. So it seems to be there's going to be like boss souls because that guy's a named Ergo. Just kind of like a soul in the games, or the runes in Elden Ring.
Hotel security excludes puppets like you.
But as you can probably see in that fight, I didn't dodge a whole lot. I did more so
You're a special puppet.
kind of strafing, and then a lot of blocking and parrying, which I'll get into here. Just in this kind of bit of downtime we have. So, gotta lie here to get into the hotel. Dodging feels a little bit iffy, and it's probably just because I'm not used to it, but the dodge just doesn't feel that great. It's a pretty short dodge, and it's kind of hard to tell when the invulnerability window of it is. It gets better at the end of the demo. You unlock the skill tree, and there's a skill there that lets you chain 2 dodges together, and that helps. It's going to be like your first dodge is like a quick like Bloodborne dash, and then tapping it again will be a big roll. And I think I've seen discussions online of people not being happy with the dodge, and I think that skill will fix it a lot, because a lot of times you're dodging just to be like, oh, like you really need to get away from an attack, and this dodge feels so short that that's not really an option. It's kind of just better to sprint versus dodging, but I think that double dodge will fix that. But this game's kind of a weird mishmash of kind of all the Souls games by FromSoft. It's
Happy to see you.
perhaps a bit deceptive. So I'll go ahead and explain. The combat is
Be careful.
very
Look at
much so
That's I'm knowing that.
plays like Sekiro, very much so. There's this blocking and perfect blocking system that I think people overlook at first, because I definitely did. I tried to play the game just dodging, and I was like, this feels really, really bad. This dodge is kind of awful.
I heard you should take.
But as as you play the game, you'll notice all these mechanics that sort of pull you into playing around with the blocking and the perfect blocks, which I'll keep intermittently like saying parry, because that's what it feels like a Sekiro parry. But
I'll use my
combat is kind of based around that very heavily. Based around blocking and parrying. Maybe not as much with the mobbing. That feels very Dark Soulsy. The mobbing and the areas, the level design feel very Dark Souls-esque. And the combat with bosses and stuff feels very Sekiro-like. The setting, very Bloodborne. You know, you could maybe almost have a hard time telling them apart. You know, this is much more steampunky with this whole Pinocchio thing going on, but this kind of Victorian-looking skyline and setting, very, very, very obviously, I think, Bloodborne inspired, like a carriage there and stuff. And then I think boss fights kind of have a bit of that Elden Ring design going on with the staggering, which you could say is Sekiro as well, with the stagger and the posture. But kind of focusing on doing heavy hits that damage their kind of invisible posture stagger bar to get those big kind of visceral hits in, those animated finisher hits in, which usually aren't finishers, it's just like a big chunk of damage. Pretty sure in Bloodborne they were visceral hits, and then I don't know what it was called exactly in Elden Ring or Dark Souls, kind of just like a riposte. You know what I mean. But that kind of hidden thing in Elden Ring, which when you know people kind of learn throughout the game, it's not explained that great, but you're going to be doing big hits, those big charged heavies, and the jumping attacks and the block attacks, where you'd like block a hit and then transition that into the big hit to build up their posture gauge to do those big visceral hits. So you can see here my sharpness is low on my sword. You'll see here probably if I swing at this guy, my weapon will bounce. Should be coming up here. Maybe not, because these guys are lighter. Yeah, it seems to be. With bosses, you definitely bounce off them. So that's a worry. If you really don't keep an eye on that bar, you know, if I was to hit a little more, that would break, and I'd have to go back, I think, to the bonfire or to the weapon lady to fix my weapon. Speaking of, I didn't upgrade it. So we got here, basically it looks like a ring, but it's a frame. Kind of like an armor piece. It's a little bit heavier, get a little bit more physical defense. Let's sharpen our weapon here. Really cool animation. I like it a lot. Cool particles too. So yeah, you've got this whole kind of interconnected system of kind of all the FromSoft games going on. We'll use our new arm here in a second to pull this guy. It's kind of a grapple hook. Oh, canceled there. He shot me. There we go. The description getting the item says with certain enemies, or maybe just a certain mode, it'll pull you to them. I have not figured out how to do that. I don't know if that's an upgrade for the arm later on that you don't have in the demo. But if that is a thing, it'd be very cool. Wonder if it will work like Ultra Kill, where you can pull lighter enemies, but if you use it on heavier enemies, you'll jump to them. Would be a cool thing. It's a bit bulky, the arm. It's got the big grapple hook on top. Ooh, it throws me off, especially with how kind of clean, simple the other one was. But it's cool. It's interesting. The level design, from what I've seen in the demo, is pretty good. A lot of interesting locations here, and kind of layered environments. As you can see just a second ago there, his health bar was glowing white, which means if you do a charged heavy... Ooh, I just almost died there. If If you charge heavy when their health bar is blinking white like that, you'll stagger them. But I missed my opportunity there. Now we're playing with fire a little bit here. We're a little bit low on HP. Got a backstab on this guy. Secret enemy here. Hiding. Here we go, we got our second heal. So I think a big reason why people are bouncing off this game is just with the blocking and not realizing that's kind of how you play it. So if you tried playing it and didn't really like it, I'd say try playing it like it is, like Sekiro. You're playing around the blocking more than you are the dodging, which you use kind of infrequently, for now at least. I'm sure better players, and the more you learn the game, that'll change. But yeah. Notice the game so far has used a lot of the these ambushes. Kind of hidden enemies. It's kind of using it, I don't know, too often, but there's definitely like, say, like 6 or 7 instances of these kind of ambushing enemies. So I wonder if that many are going to be in the whole game, or they just kind of throw them in here to have you watch out for them in the future. But I wonder if the game's kind of designed around slowly figuring it out, that blocking and parrying is kind of how the game's supposed to be played, because there's kind of a lot of hidden mechanics that the game doesn't explain to you that kind of push you, lead you into using the blocking. Like for instance, the game kind of is a rally system like Bloodborne, the rallying your health, or if you take damage, there's a little shaded portion that you can heal if you deal damage to kind of encourage, you know, aggressive play. But that only applies if you take damage while blocking. I'll show you up here. If I block, you see that little shaded portion of health, which doesn't do that much. So if I get shot just by this guy without blocking, it just takes a chunk of health. But if I block, see there's that shaded portion, and then if I deal damage, you fill that shaded portion and regain your health. So it's kind of a big thing to encourage you to kind of block and parry, because if you dodge the attack and mess up the dodge, you're going to take your that full chunk of damage, and you can't, you know, can't heal any of that. But if you block, if you're going for like a perfect block and you just block and you miss it, you're just going to take less damage because you are blocking, and then you also have an opportunity to heal that damage that you blocked. So at first, blocking might seem kind of not worth, because you're like, oh, well, might as well just dodge because I'm taking damage anyway. But it's kind of deceptively like encouraging you to do it. Because yeah, you're taking damage from blocking, but you can regain that back. I think it's the full damage you take if you rally without all that health. Let's see here. Yeah, so it looks like you can regain all the damage you take from blocking, which is pretty cool. And if you don't hit a perfect block, you also take some weapon sharpness damage. So attacking and just blocking lowers that sharpness gauge, whereas I think almost certain perfect blocks do not drop your sharpness. So if you play fights well, sharpness won't really be an issue. I'm going to skip this guy for now. I'll just come back to him in a second. But if you're playing a fight really poorly and you're only blocking the attacks, your health is going to be a lot lower, and your weapon's going to run out of sharpness very quickly. You're going to have to sharpen it back up. Alright, let's see this guy on. He's got that chest lead next to him. Try to show off the little mana system here with the chaining blade attack. 3 times there. So that sound's gonna be your perfect parry. That's just like a block. I wish the sounds would be able to... They are different sounds, but I wish there was a little bit more differentiation between the two. Sometimes it's gonna be hard to tell in the heat of the moment during like a battle with music and sound effects from the enemies. If you did perfect block it or not. I know there's like particles and stuff, and you can check your health, but just it'd be nice to tell purely through hearing. If you, you know, if you perfect parried or not. Cheeky backstab off there. These guys can be really difficult. They have some like rushing attack, which if you don't block, they will shred you. A bit like kind of the wheel skeletons in Dark Souls, where they just run into you and it just and you just take tons of instances of damage. Those guys with those spiky spears can do that as well. Enemy variety in the demo is pretty good. I'm hoping that lasts in the real game, you know, in the full release, because just lost my train of thought. Because it seems like a lot of these clones kind of fall off. A little bit like Dark Souls 1 with Lost Eyes. I love how it feels like incomplete. Kind of feels like they quickly run out of new enemies to show you. As you can see, there's this, I'm skipping a lot of this area, but there's a whole streets level with shortcuts and stuff. And that was the same as back there too. I'm kind of, you know, rushing through this a bit. Coming up here, we've got this NPC in the window, and then that same mini boss from the very beginning of the game in that train station. Just a very harder version of it. I might try fighting just for a sec, and then I might just run away and skip him, because I'd rather not die. You know, we'll give it our best shot. So as you can see, the world's beautiful. It's a very beautiful, very pretty game, and it runs well too on my rig at least. And I don't have like a fantastic one. As you can see too, if you get a perfect parry, which I probably won't anymore, but yeah, I'm not going. We'll skip this guy. I'll show it up on just a normal enemy, or probably best would be this boss coming up ahead. Let's kind of corral these guys. Ooh. Activate this checkpoint. So, you'll see up ahead. Perfect parrying, perfect blocking, enemies make their weapons glow red, and if you do that enough, their weapon will break. There's weak enemies early on where just one parry will shatter their, kind of looks like a candlestick that they're holding, but up ahead here, if you get a bunch of perfect parries, this guy's sword will break, which helps out. His moveset stays the same, but I'm assuming it does less damage. Okay, bud. And
come out, Geppetto! You've got a lot to answer for.
Yeah, I'm sure it has less range because he has this big great sword.
Don't you? You're their maker, practically their father.
So this is like a basically like an invasion fight in like Dark Souls.
Together. What's your problem?
They can feel a little weird. You can cheese them kind of the same as
Like I
those
know
by
what
just
you
fishing
are.
for backstabs,
You're the
which
devil's puppet.
I'll try not to do here.
You
But
can't sneak past me. Die!
try to play it kind of how you're supposed to. But I had troubles with this guy my first playthrough. Gave me a lot of trouble. He has some very quick attacks, which you wouldn't think so for how big his weapon is. Okay, I'm just goofing around too. Get a stagger here.
I'll kill you both, then string you up on the bridge.
There we go. We broke his weapon there. Just makes the he does a lot less damage and just makes the fight more manageable. I mean, you can't get cocky. You can still mess you up, but it's a really cool kind of thing. I really like when fights kind of have interactivity and things you can break during a fight in any game. Jeez, this guy's really aggressive. It's kind of hard to tell when like an attack will stagger. You know, sometimes a hit is safe because it'll knock him out of his animation. You know, you'll poise break him. Other times it won't. So, kind of just have to play safe or just, you know, go for it. As I said, this is my second time recording this, and I feel like I'm just missing a lot of what I said that first time, so racking my brain trying to think of anything I missed. Oh, I guess a big thing is the weapons. I was explaining the HUD and I never really got to the weapons. So, weapons are made out of two parts.
It's a dream come true.
The handle and the
But in
blade.
order-
The blade is going to be the thing you level up with these moonstones, which is like Titanite. And then the handle is the piece that you level up with like the gems in Dark Souls 3 are kind of the imbuements, the like making your sword fire or making your sword scale more with dexterity or strength. Seems like that's all done via the handle. And then just here we unlocked, I don't have any other weapons to show you with, but we unlocked like a weapon assembly kit that lets you mix and match blades and handles. So a weapon isn't like a set thing. You know, this great sword isn't just a great sword, it's a two-handed handle and then a greatsword blade. So if we had a little tiny one-handed rapier, and we attach the greatsword blade to that, it would now be this rapier handle with the greatsword blade. And movesets seem to be attached to the handles, but like the visceral attack animations are all based on the blade or the head of the weapon if it's like a blunt weapon. So you can mix and match. So all like the handles and blades have the unique spell, the Y button, the mana.
I know my way.
There we go.
I'll use my...
So if you find two that you really like, if you really like you like this blades combo attack, and then you find a handle that has something that buffs your attack or your defense, and you want to use that over this kind of very lenient block skill that we have on the handle. You could, but that would change then the moveset. So you'd either have to find another two-handed handle to use with this, or just change the moveset, or stick with this one, which might not be a skill you like. But it's interesting. You can attach like this two-handed grip with, there's a baton you can get, which is a very like short-range one-handed blunt weapon, and then you're swinging around like this great sword, but it's this really short weapon. And then on the other side, you can attach the rapier handle to the great sword, and you're gonna be stabbing it around like a rapier. This big old blade. It's just cool. I'm sure I haven't experimented with it too much, but it seems like a really neat system to kind of have each weapon be two parts that you can mix and match with others. We broke his sword. When you get good at the parrying, or if you get lucky like I did there, it feels really satisfying, just like Sekiro, super smooth feeling. Just feels incredible, really. Definitely the best feeling like Souls-like clone that I've played. I haven't played Thymesia. I've heard that's, you hear always good and bad from these clones. With something like Mortal Shell, you have people say, oh, it sucks. Some people say it's good. I've heard the same with Thymesia. I've heard people say it's the best Souls-like game that isn't from Software, and then people say, oh, it's awful. And from my personal experience, it was good. This kind of seems like they ran out of, time or money or something. There's like a starting area. It was really good. Animations are all clean. Maybe combat feels a little bit like locked off a bit. I'm gonna run back to the bonfire to heal here. Combat felt a little bit weird, like there's something just off about it. And I used the hammer and chisel, which is a really unique like weapon type. You haven't seen that done before, really, and it felt really cool. Really clean animations, looked awesome, felt really good. But yeah, the game starts off in one area, and then it kind of splits off into 3 areas that you have to do kind of in whatever order you want. And 2 of them were kind of ridiculous. One was like a little sinkhole ice cave thing that was really short. Like you could finish the whole area in like 10 minutes. And then another one was like this fire temple with a little outdoor area outside of like a temple. And then the temple itself, which was like two courtyards. Or no, two like hallways, I should say. 2 little hallways, and then the boss at the end. And it was really like a kind of like, what the hell happened here? There's definitely more planned, and I don't know if they just ran out of time or something. But anyway, I'm gonna be quiet here because I talked during this fight last time, and I think that's why I lost it. Also just lost it because I was bad, but I'll do my best. We'll see. Very great fight. I think this is definitely, I think it's a lot better than a lot of like FromSoft boss fights. And if the bosses in this game stay to this quality, I think we're in for a real treat. Alright. Wish me luck, lads. Uh-oh. Bad start. I'm choking already. Oh, I forgot. That happens. Oh no, we got a little bit more to go. I'll just play it safe. Okay. Deathless, let's go. Awesome. So, this is the end of the demo. You can't get any further. It's like one more cutscene, and then it'll unlock that skill tree I talked a bit about, and then I'll show you that, kind of explain how it works, because I was confused with it, and then I'll go fight that cop puppet that I skipped. And we'll wrap it up. So I feel like I have more to talk about. I feel like I rambled less in this one versus my first recording, but I'm hitting way less of the topics I want to cover. I think because I'm not talking during boss fights, because I'm focusing up. But with that boss, you can kind of see there was moments where the boss would stagger and like kind of catch on fire, which wasn't a like big stagger where you get the visceral attack off. Which is cool. Kind of like what I was saying earlier with like the weapons breaking. Kind of feels like you're breaking the robot a bit. Not with like the visceral attacks and stuff, but
Always
he didn't do it too often that fight, but he has that attack where he winds up his right arm and slams it, and then he'll switch to his left arm and slam it, and then he'll do the red attack where he'll spin both and slam. And I don't know if I said so far, but if an enemy does a red attack, you can't dodge it. I think by what they mean, because you can definitely like run away and dodge it, but your iframes don't work with that, and you also can't block it. You'll take full damage, and I don't think you'll have any rallied health.
Be careful, be wary.
But you can perfect block those. So it's kind of like Sekiro had those like danger attacks where it just flashed that symbol, and then those are the ones you would Makiri counter or jump over or just run away from because it's a grab. So far it seems like those are any red flashing attack is just one you have to perfect parry, or just run so far away from that you're out of range. You could see in that fight I did a little bit of dodging, not too much. So dodging is definitely viable. I don't know as like a main thing, but it is definitely something you can use. I'm sure you can play the whole thing just fine with parrying and blocking, but especially with this boss has kind of environmental hazards, and that second part with all that electricity, dodging really helps, but also just strafing and having good movement and spacing helps a lot too. So here's the skill tree. Kind of skip past the explanation, but you're gonna be putting in these things. There's this top circle and bottom circle on each of these skills. You're going to be putting quartz in those, and you can pick what kind of quartz it is in the menu here. So here's that linked dodge. So we go on this empty slot. You can do one of each type, so I can't do 2 attack quartz on this link dodge. So I'd have to pick. I would do, say here, enhance. This is what they call it. Groggy is their like stagger. So if your charge attacks are gonna add more to that groggy bar, or that stagger. And now we can switch to survival types. Here we got ability types. Let's do this one because this makes it, maybe I'll be more inclined to use the arm instead of, you know, hoarding it and saving it. And now that dodge ability is active. You need to have both, I believe, both of those slots filled to activate the ability. So now if we come down here, so you can see, this was the dodge before. It's kind of, I don't want to say pitiful, and I know the devs have talked about recently that they're going to look at buffing the dodge, but I'm wondering how much they're going to do that, you know, I'm wondering how much they're going to do, because now, kind of the main thing I was having an issue with dodging is like big attacks where I'm like, oh no, I need to dodge this big hit, and you do this little, you know, jump, which usually doesn't dodge it, but now with the linked dodge, you can do the little Bloodborne dash into a roll in all the directions. And that's kind of, I think, what people are wanting. So I'm wondering if that, you know, sentiment will go away, because if there's this dummy who's doing a big punch and I don't feel safe parrying it, I can do this double back roll, and that should be enough distance, you know, to cover it. Because before it was almost better just to sprint away, because the dodge was so short. You could sprint away in the matter of time it take to dodge, and probably just better off doing that. So we'll see. That skill tree thing, I feel like, is going to add a lot of depth to the combat. And those quartz little upgrades you put into the skills too. It looked like there's different tiers. Definitely looks like it'd be interesting. So we'll try to take on this cop bot just to end off the video. If I am successful, I can show you just, I guess, a bit of that weapon crafting. That's it. I know I'm forgetting a ton of stuff compared to my last recording. I wish I could, like, you know, splice it off, but it's connected to the game audio too. We'll see. I don't know what I'm saying. Now I'm rambling. But anyway, I bounced off the game at first playthrough, switched to controller, did a different weapon type. Kind of fell in love with the game a bit, I'd say. I hope, you know, the game delivers. Hope it's not, you know, they put all their work into the demo and now the next areas are going to be bland. And this is all the enemy types you encounter. I hope that is not the case. Because with a setting like this, with these puppet enemies and this kind of Victorian steampunk era, there's so much room for awesome designs and creativity. And I can't wait to see the bosses in this game with how good that boss there was. And I haven't done that circus boss enough to kind of, you know, fully grasp all the nuances, but I don't know. I feel it can be incredible. Because that last boss there, I think I was saying earlier, that his spinning arm attack where he slams down, that was a very, very big opening in that first phase, like the first half of his health before he gets all electrified. You could get a charged heavy in between every single one of those. So he swings one arm and slams, you parry it, get a full charged heavy, parry the next one, full charged heavy, parry the red danger one, get a full charged heavy. Second phase that changes up because each slam drops a lightning bolt at your feet, And the opening then is much smaller unless you want to tank that lightning strike. But it changes up the combat, kind of like how Genichiro was in Sekiro, his first fight. I know he had one kind of attack that was always the same. Oh. It's like I think some stab or something, and then it always was a danger, you know, thing to jump over, or Mikiri. It's either jumping or Mikiri, one of those, not both. It was only ever one of them. But then when second phase, he would switch it up, and then that attack would lead always into the danger attack, but it could be either a Mikiri counter or like a jumping attack, like a dodge. So it's kind of like that, where it's their combo changes up a little bit. You kind of have to play against it differently. So we parried this guy and broke his weapon. Which is a little bit. Oh. Should be able to take him out from here. Yep. Get an opening here. Boom. Let's finish it. Here we go. Alright, I'll show you how weapon crafting works. So yeah, just cool things like that, it's not like a whole new phase. He got a couple new moves. He gets the grab and that kind of electrical discharge. And I don't know if he ever did it, but he can roll into a ball and launch at you. And that has like added electricity things to it. So kind of layering things on, more so than like completely changing how the fight works. I'm a big fan of that. And changing kind of how you interact with the fight, because that slam attack went from like the move you want the most to these big openings to kind of one you have to think about and use your spacing well and kind of figure out the best way to dodge it and still get your damage in. So here's a look at weapon crafting. So here's the baton we just got from that police officer, and here's the greatsword we've played the whole time with. Baton. Greatsword. As you can see, it's not one weapon. It's always split into the head of the weapon and the handle. So we craft a new weapon here. Let's do the baton head with the greatsword handle. Craft that. It's gonna break the other ones. You know, you can't. It's not like you have infinite handles of the weapons that you have. It's one of each. And then let's do greatsword handle with the baton. Greatsword blade with baton handle. Let's check this out. So here's our greatsword with the one-handed handle. Now you've got the moveset of the baton, which is like a one-handed blunt weapon. Really interesting. It's gonna be doing like less damage and stuff, but you've got, you know, all the whole moveset of the baton now. But you still got the same weapon art as the blade, but then you've got the baton's handle as the second weapon art. Let's switch to our greatsword, greatsword baton. It looks a little bit like a toy of some sorts to be used perhaps in the bedroom, but it's gonna have the same move set we've had throughout the game, as you can see, on this little tiny baton head. So I'm sure there's some funny combos you're gonna be able to make. But I'm really excited for it. I think there's gonna be some cool things you can do. We'll just do some closing thoughts here. Maybe go get those other weapons to show you. But yeah. I'm excited for the game. It's got all the kind of usual suspects. It's got all these lore tidbits on the flavor text of all the items. Got this kind of advanced society with this really cool thing gone wrong, like Bloodborne and the healing blood and stuff. And this is all the puppets have gone mad. I'm excited for it. I'm forgetting all the things I've missed, but it should be good enough. I might just even cut this. A lot of rambling going on now. But yeah, fantastic game. Runs great. Usually, I don't know, games nowadays have been running like absolute crap. It's nice to see a game that runs good out of the box. I've never even messed with the settings. It just runs great. Hopefully Starfield does the same. But yeah. Great game so far. Hope the rest of the game is as good as this demo. And that's gonna do it for me, guys. Let's just take a look quickly at like the rapier. Let's craft rapier handle with the greatsword. Let's make a greatsword blade on the rapier handle. Let's see how that goes. As you see here, here's like some of the flavor text and stuff. So I'm sure there's gonna be a whole lot of lore for people to get into. Here's our great sword rapier. And our great sword with the rapier. You got even the rapier sound effect on these hits. Really cool. I'm sure the system is going to be great for creative people and like build crafters and theory crafters. It's going to do it for me, guys. Thanks for accompanying me on this Deathless playthrough. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Take care.